Welcome back to part 2 of the Christmas Countdown. Today we are continuing A Woke Christmas Carol. And so by the way, the art is by Milkshake. I think this art is even better than the last art. Absolutely incredible. And let's begin with the first of the 3 spiritual facilitators. It was still dark when Scrooge next awoke. Lying on his mat, he laughed to himself for what he believed had happened earlier. While he remained open to the possibility of extra-scientific phenomena, he couldn't validate the previous evening's event as anything credible. Marley's image had been so melodramatic after all, not to mention self-righteous and accusatory. Additionally, an all-gruel diet was known to have some side effects, one of which was vivid hallucinations. Just then the alarm on his wristwatch beeped once, and instantly a bright light pierced the darkness of his room. When his eyes adjusted, Scrooge saw before him a strange figure, a being not quite adult in stature, yet not quite childlike in appearance. Its hair, which was stylishly brown and brushed, was silver as if from experience, and yet the puckish face had not a wrinkle on it, as nearly as Scrooge could tell through its makeup. It wore a radiant sport coat with a boutonniere of holly. But the strangest thing about it was that from behind its head there sprung a bright light. Actually, an entire bank of lights from the camera crew that it had brought along with it. "Who and what are you?" demanded Scrooge, trying to sound brave. "I am the spirit whose coming was foretold to you," it said in its microphone. "I am the ghost of Christmas Retrospective, and this is my crew." Scrooge asked the spirit why it had brought all the cameras. The spirit said, "Nobody's really afraid of ghosts anymore. They all think I'm some sort of hologram or special effect. But came it with a hard-bitten hungry camera crew, and you get people's attention." "And what is it you want from me?" "There are allegations that your life has been spent worshipping false idols and turning your back on the rest of personkind. Would you care to comment on that?" The spirit stuck its microphone in Scrooge's face. He smiled smugly. "You must really take me for someone of overtaxed mental and emotional resources. I don't respond to anonymous allegations." "Then you are telling us that you are the model of a concerned, conscientious, upright citizen?" "Yes," Scrooge asserted, and added another untruth. "Although definitely not wedded to the established order of things." "Then we must have been mistaken," said the spirit with a straight face. "I smell another story here. What do you say we review you with some of the events that shaped the upstanding man you are today?" Scrooge saw nothing wrong with this, and readily agreed. The spirit had him sign a release, then led him over to the window. "Wait a minute," said Scrooge. "We're 3 floors up. I'll fall." "Give but a touch to my microphone cord," said the spirit, "and you'll be borne aloft. But strap on the safety helmet anyway. I don't need any more lawsuits. And we're rolling." As these words were spoken, Scrooge the spirit and the camera crew passed through the wall and suddenly found themselves in the midst of a bedlam. A horde of people in gaudy and disheveled clothing surged and careened around them, while disco music pulsed loudly and incessantly. Amid laughter and occasional howling, men and women were telling personal secrets, hidden desires, and undecorous jokes with an incredible amount of informality. But apparently it was all in excellent fun, at least by the era's standards. In this elegant, crowded hotel ballroom, the holiday cheer spilled as much from the hearts of the celebrants as out of the numerous glasses held aloft. "And where are we now?" "And where are we now?" the spirit asked as he shoved the mic in Scrooge's face. Scrooge yelled over the din. "My gosh! This is one of the office parties that old Fezziwig used to throw before the feds got him. It's good to see it all again. It was so hard to remember the morning after." Scrooge recognized many old friends and acquaintances amidst the faces assembled there. He shouted out their names in recognition, but they paid him no mind, as was their prerogative as shades of the past. These slights worried Scrooge not a bit, as he was swept up in a wave of nostalgia and festivity. He quite forgot himself in all the merrymaking and tried to join a soul train line. The spirit and its crew watched bemusedly, feeling no obligation to stop him from his frivolity. The release they'd made him sign clearly stated that these were merely images of the past that would not be aware of his presence. As the shades continued to eat, drink, and celebrate each other's company, the spirit asked pointedly, "In your opinion, was Fezziwig misusing corporate assets at the indictments charged?" "Misusing? Not at all," replied Scrooge. "Fezziwig was a great man and a wonderful employer. But he allegedly funneled corporate assets into a secret budget to pay for a lavish personal lifestyle, which included throwing these wild parties. Everybody looked forward to these parties. They were the highlight of the year. They were wonderful for morale. But they must have cost so much. For how happy he made us, whatever he paid was an absolute bargain. Then we can assume that you've adopted Fezziwig's philosophy and throw extravagant parties for your own employees," the spirit said in its microphone. Scrooge paused a minute. "We prefer to invest in our company's human capital in other ways. We give our employees the chance to pursue whatever is meaningful for them in the celebration sector." The spirit asked, "Is that why you have only coughed up a coupon book for Cratchit this year?" Scrooge's face turned red from embarrassment as he stammered, "No comment." He thought to himself that maybe he did owe a little more to the memory of his mentor Fezziwig. The spirit pointed to a dark corner of the ballroom and said, "In addition to the food and music, it appears the opportunities were endless for sexual harassment as well." He and his crew rushed over, lights blazing, while Scrooge followed in the rear. In that dark corner was a man and a woman. Woman is spelled is spelled WOMMON because feminism. Locked in passionate embrace. Scrooge found it fairly amusing until the couple paused for a breath of air. "Candy!" he shouted. In an instant the ballroom had disappeared, and Scrooge, the spirit, and the crew found themselves standing in the back of a dark restaurant. At the table in front of them sat a younger image of Scrooge, as well as a woman with whom this younger man had just been entwined at the party. "I thought it would be fun, is all, marrying you," she was saying. "But I was a lot younger 5 months ago, emotionally anyway." The spirit asked, "And who's this we're watching?" "Candy, Candy," said Scrooge. "She was my second wife." The woman continued, "I never would have gone through with it, had I known you were so divorced from your feelings. You keep me and everyone else at arm's length, then try to double-talk your way out of any real connection." "Candy, I won't say you're wrong," said the younger Scrooge. "But how many people know themselves well enough to realize that they are divorced from their feelings? If I were to admit it, I might even consider this insane a kind of progress." "Oh," said Candy incredulously. "Oh, sure, oh!" Suddenly Candy disappeared, and in her place sat another young woman. "Besides which," this woman said, "you ought to know I'm not the type of wife who'll smile bravely while her husband holds press conferences to try and clear his name." "Ah!" screamed the genuine Scrooge. "And who would this be?" asked the spirit. "That's Sandy," he replied. "She was my third wife." "I don't know what you're talking about," said Scrooge's younger image. "Yeah, right," she said rather ungraciously. "I know all about the stock split and how you're going to screw those poor coffee farmers." The younger Scrooge slapped the table. "We're totally within the law on that one." "I don't care," she said coolly. "I'm leaving. It's not pleasant watching you sell off your ideals one by one." Then, in an instant, she was gone also, replaced by yet another woman. The real Scrooge said, without being prompted, "That's Brandy, my fourth wife." "Fourth?" asked the spirit. "Guess again." Scrooge looked panicked. "Fifth?" he asked, not at all sure whether he was correct. And as he stood there watching another set of the angry goodbyes at the table, Scrooge's unbelieving eyes were treated to a parade of the women in his life: ex-wives, paramours, common-law wives, sexual surrogates. He got some names wrong, as well as their order of appearance in his life, but they all had the same thing to tell his younger self. He was distant and cold. He worshipped success at the expense of his own integrity. He had used each one for his own selfish purposes, and he would be hearing from their lawyers the next day. "Spirit, take me home," implored Scrooge. "I can bear this no longer. I can't even keep their names straight." "But we have more scenes to visit," said the spirit, "and we have plenty of tape left. What about this union crew? Do you know what this is costing me?" "No! Take me home! This interview's over." Scrooge leapt at the camera that had been in his face and tried to grab it from its operator. The spirit and the rest of the crew wrestled Scrooge away from the equipment, and the melee continued until Scrooge awoke, alone in his bedroom, doing battle with a floor cushion. Sweating and panting heavily, he went to the bathroom, swallowed a couple Nighthall, then staggered back to his mat and immediately fell asleep. And we will continue tomorrow.